Hello, I'm Tony Goldstone. So in this video we're going to revisit the Change Analyzer tab, but go through some of the advanced functionality within that within the multi-scenario analyzer. But before going there, I'm just going to recap the description for our baseline consultant. So this consultant is in the legacy 1995 scheme and the 2015 scheme, was age 40 in 2018, became a consultant in April 2012 and therefore has around 14 years in the scheme, no additional years, and came over to the scheme in 2015. And this consultant has just normal pay progression and an on-call supplement, and also a level 4 CEA, and then also has income outside of pensionable pay of £50,000. So that's comprising approximately £25,000 for 2 additional PAs, putting them on 12 PAs, and then an additional £25,000, for example, due to additional lists or waiting list initiatives or income outside the NHS. And then the future prediction was of that of no change, so just ongoing non-pensionable pay of £50,000, and then the only changes to pensionable pay were just the standard uplifts for pay progression at 5-year intervals. So then if we go back via the table of contents to the Change Analyzer, you will see that we've got these graphs. Now if it's the first time on this tab, you should press Prep Analyzer and refresh baseline, and all Prep Analyzer does, it just allows the control of those factors that are on the minimum data set to move over to this sheet instead, to allow you to change those pays from here. And you'll recall that this consultant would have a pension of around 57,470, which in today's terms is worth 37,769, based on a retirement age of 60, and the commonest model, which will be using scheme pays all, because very few consultants will be able to pay these enormous eye-watering tax charges on an annual basis. And you'll also recall from an earlier video, so for example, if we went down to £25,000, which is the equivalent of 12 to 10 PAs, we can see those graphs fall off. So this is annual allowance by year, and this is our cumulative loan via self-pay in red or scheme pays in black. And for example, then if we also went to, let's say, 70% full-time, we can see those graphs fall off dramatically, and also here, and these values update in the table. But it can become difficult to track different scenarios, and this is where our multi-scenario analyzer comes in. So I'm just going to reset those values back up to 100%, and so £50,000, and I'm going to scroll down to the multi-scenario analyzer. Because I've just come back to it, I'm just going to reset it, and then that will give us 3 graphs that are equivalent to the graphs up here, and also for this pension at present day value. So this graph with the spikes in for the pay progression is equivalent to this graph over here, and then this is the annual allowance by year. This is the scheme pays loan, so we can see, for example, if we go to 68, we've got that value of 944,452, which should be the same as this value here, 944,452. And this is the net present value of pension. So for example, if we went at 60 using scheme pays, we can see that value of 37,769, which is the same as this value here, 37,769. But what this does allows you to save up to 3 different scenarios, different from your baseline. So you can compare them graphically and also in a table to see the differences in your scheme pays loan taxation and your pension. So let's just run through those again. So the first change we made was 12 to 10 by putting that down to £25,000. And then if we come down to this cell here, we can call that whatever we want. So let's just say that's 12 PAs to 10 PAs. And then if we save that in slot 1, and then what we can see now is that all those graphs have been updated with what we've just typed in, 12 to 10 PAs. And so has the table down here, 12 PAs to 10 PAs. So let's just add 2 more scenarios. So we're currently on 10, so let's see what happens if we go to, let's say 8.5 PAs. So then if we say 85% LTFT and put that in slot 2, and we can see that's now updated that on the 3 graphs and also in the table below, 85% less than full time. And then let's go all the way down to 70% and then do exactly the same and say 70% less than full time. And then if we put that in slot 3, so then we can see now these graphs that we've just created ourselves can model our own exact circumstances. So assuming you've gone through the minimum data set and then validate it correctly in the validation step as described in the earlier videos, you can now run these scenarios to whichever way you wish, using either the change analyzer features here or by making changes elsewhere in the spreadsheet, as I'll demonstrate in a moment. So you can see with this example, so if we look at age 68, that's gone from almost £1 million at £944,000 down to £154,000. So an enormous difference in that loan from 12 to 7 PAs. And you can also see the effects that it's had on pension. So this baseline pension was, for example, at 60, is £37,000 in real terms. And then you can see there's not a huge amount of difference between 10 PAs, or then here it's 8.5 and 7 PAs is what gives us our highest pension. And then again here, all of this is mediated because the tax is vastly different between the models. So this highest tax was at the baseline of 12 PAs, and then the red was 10 PAs, the green was 85% full time, and then the blue, they're completely out of taxation at 70%. Up until age 56, apart from this initial peak here, which was before the change was made. So of course we can do exactly the same in reverse. So you can have whatever baseline you want. So for example, let's say your starting point was working as 80% less than full time with £25,000 non-pensionable pay. So if you just say that make that as my new best baseline, so just press refresh baseline and then also reset the multi-analyzer, and then we can make whichever changes we want from this new baseline. So you can see our new baseline has, apart from that initial before the changes made taxation, then no tax up until 52. But now let's look at, so for example, going from less than full time to full time. So if we just put that up to 100%, and then if we label that as 80% to 100% full time, and then if we put that in slot 1, and then now let's go all the way up to 12 PAs again. So if we say that was £50,000, and then say that's to 12 PAs, and then if we put that in slot 2, so we can see the reverse of the graphs we previously showed. So if this was now our baseline position of working less than full time, you can see that by going from less than full time to full time, this particular consultant then just will acquire a massive new debt on the scheme pays loan, and then that goes up even further by going to 12 PAs. And then similarly in pension, this is their current position at baseline, and you can see that this particular consultant, all they would have achieved by going full time is a reduction in pension. And yet further by going with 2 additional non-pensionable PAs, and then the same with taxation. And all of those changes are borne out in this table again here. So this was the baseline position of 80% less than full time, had a loan of 116 and a pension of 43,556, and then by going, for example, to scenario 1, which was the full time, that 116 has gone up to 369. Which has made them £253,000 worse off in tax, which has lowered their pension via scheme pays by £2,000, or if they go all the way up to 12 PAs, 116 becomes 488, which means pension goes from 43 down to 37, or £5,787,000 worse. And of course that's for every year of their pensionable, of their pension receiving life. So if we just change that back, and I'll just demonstrate that we can make changes outside of the screen. So we're all good there. So if we just say refresh baseline and refresh multi. So for example, let's say we want to model the effect of getting an additional role or a bronze merit award, for example. So we've reset the baseline. So now if we go back to our minimum data set, so let's say here in 2020, we got a pensionable pay rise of £10,000. And then if we just go back to our change analyzer, and we can then say 10k pay rise, and then if we put that in slot 1, and as you'd expect, the scheme pays loan has gone up because the taxation has gone up, and there's a negligible difference on pension because of the taxation was so fierce. But then let's say, for example, it might be realistic to suggest that a CD role, for example, was only for, let's say, 5 years. So if we just say 2, 3, 4, 5 years, then that was minus £10,000. And then we can go back to change analyzer. And then if we say 10k pay rise given up in 5 years, and put that in slot 2. So then we can see that the lowest scheme pays loan was by doing nothing at all. The worst scheme pays loan was by having that 10k pay rise, and then somewhere in between was only having it for 5 years. But if we then look at the taxation and pension, we can see what's happened is the worst position was having this just for 5 years, because we've had all the disadvantage of having this huge tax peak when we got that initial pay rise. But it's not translated into a pension because most of this consultant would have got that pay award mediated via the 1995 scheme, and because that pay rise wasn't within his last 3 years of his pensionable service before he retired, it means that he's done badly. So for example, this was the baseline pension on 12 PAs of 37,769. If he would have kept that 10k pay rise all the way through to retirement, he would have had a tiny increase in pension of £208 a year. But if he had it just for 5 years and then had to give it back, you can see his pension's gone down compared to not having it at all, to 36,591, which is just a crazy situation. So his pension's gone down by 1178, and of course that fall in pension will be index linked and will be with him for all of the time that he draws his pension. So that's the multi-scenario analyzer. Thank you very much.